Hey guys, welcome to this car talk. It's been a little while. Well, it's been a little bit while for us to be sat in front of the camera. The content's carried on coming, but it has been a while for us. It's been quite nice. We've had a nice catch up and everything. But today we are going to be talking about our favourite car games. Not so much board games or anything like that, but like our favourite games on consoles, PC, that sort of thing. But all the ones that were more car orientated. So join us for this one and see what you think.
Well, mine still is and always has been is Gran Turismo.
Yeah, I say Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo is the reason I bought a PS1. I mean, that's how old I am. PS1. But yeah, and the same reason I stayed loyal to PlayStation for so many years was the Gran Turismo franchise. To be honest, I think you're 100% right there, because that was one of the first games you could really get involved with the actual cars, wasn't it? I think. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. There probably was other ones where you could put add-ons on, but this was the first. Gran Turismo were the first ones I ever saw where you could actually adjust things like camber and caster and suspension and tyre pressures and things like that on and everything like that, and it was.
Well, the thing as well was it was one of the first car games where you actually got proper cars on it. It wasn't a thing that looked like a car and they all looked the same. You had different brands. You had actual cars from those brands, and they actually looked like the cars they were supposed to be. Whereas other things were just like it was loosely based off something that it may have looked like.
And to be honest, well, it was a bit like. They weren't all cars out of your league as well. They weren't because they weren't like Jaguar XJ220s or Ferraris or Lambos or things like that. They were.
Well, you could get a 100 Prelude or something like that. Anybody on the you'd see driving past you on the street kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that made it, for me as a young lad, that made it a lot more real, because you could go racing around in a car you'd seen parked halfway down your road, and that was a very cool, very cool game, and the early ones as well, they did make it really good. And I mean, I know they didn't have real racetracks. They were like...
Yeah, they're made up
racetracks, but they were brilliant fun.
Yeah.
And then they actually started bringing the real racetracks in later on, if you're not familiar with the Gran Turismo franchise. But it was, that's one thing I did always quite liked about it. The fact you could tune it. And I mean, because that was one of the first games where like me and you could both be playing Gran Turismo 1. And we could both have the Honda Prelude, say, but they'd be worlds apart because of the way that each of us had tuned it or decided what we decided to do with it, and that just brought a whole new level of realism and just fun for that game. That was a really good.
Well, that was the other thing as well, is there wasn't like one car that was better than everything else. Everything was fairly equal. Like obviously you could tune them differently and everything like that, but it wasn't like, well, I need to get this one car because with this one car I'll be able to win every race. It was like, as long as you did it properly, you could win a race with any car.
Yeah, that's it. And it was that was a very, very cool game. I have to admit, I love the Gran Turismo ones. Which is your favourite Gran Turismo?
I think my favourite has always been the first one.
Yeah, I would have said, for nostalgia's sake, I would have said 1 and 2 for me.
Yeah.
2 I loved, because I've still got number 2 with the scratch and sniff disc.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And that was a genuine thing. You could, if you rubbed the... I think if you rubbed the blue one, I remember that smelled like burnt rubber. And if you if you rubbed the red one, it was something else.
I think it was engine oil or something like that. It smelled like.
And they actually did smell like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still work. I'll have to dig them out and find out.
But yeah, the original 2 for me were, well, they were the ones I had when we were growing up. So yeah,
that's it. Number 2. I mean, to be honest, 3 for me was a bit of a disappointment. I have to admit, because the driving physics of it seemed to be a bit blancmangy. Yeah. To me, it's a bit fluffy. It'd be like you'd try and get the car to do something and it would take a few seconds to decide it wanted to do that. It's almost like...
Well, I think the next one I played as much as I played the original 2 was Gran Turismo 5.
Me was 4. I loved 4, because you had... what did you have on 4? 4 was pre-B-Spec, wasn't it? B-Spec was 5.
You had the driving missions and bits and pieces like that on it.
Yeah, and I loved the fact that... I loved the fact in number 4, because number 4 was on PS2, PlayStation 2, and that one, so you still had memory cards. You could take the memory card out and take your garage on that memory card to your mate's place, because one of our friends, Dan Garner, he had it, and he got really into it. It's the only racing game I ever knew that I ever knew him to get into, and when he had that and he was really into it, we used to go around to each other's houses and use each other's PlayStations, but take our memory cards with us so that we could take our garage and race each other with them, or we could buy and sell cars between each other as well. And that was really cool. Because that was one.
Because you could trade as well, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's it. Because that's one thing I found that was a glitch. If the other person had a concept car that was a really good concept car, because it didn't have a price tag on it, the game didn't really know what to do. So you could always buy it for 20,000 credits. So you could get like, the Rainstormer for 20 grand and things like that. That was the cool thing.
Well, the thing I liked about 5 was the B spec where you could hire a driver to do all the races you'd done.
Yeah, that was quite good. It was quite a nice way you could be like a crew chief or team manager or something like that, wouldn't it? Really, it was.
So if you were struggling to get through A spec, which was the bit that you do by yourself, and you went, I need money to get a certain car, you could put your driver in for B spec races and make extra money that way. Then
that's it. And then you'd also win cars and bits and bobs for completing championships and getting your drivers to win, which is really good. And it's but that's it, because there's so many of them. That's why I had to ask which one was your favourite. But yeah, I think 2 slightly more than 1 for me, just because it had. I remember being blown away by it because it had amazing cars and a bigger selection of cars.
Yes.
Not just Japanese ones.
I think it had 500 cars or something like that on it, or possibly more.
Yeah, because I said the first one was all Japanese cars, wasn't it? It was Mitsubishi, Toyota.
With the exception of Dodge and TVR and Aston Martin.
That's right. Yeah, no, it was. It was you did have a couple of others.
That was the other thing. It was very rare to see TVR in the game.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And that was a very cool game, I have to admit. And I've always been a car nut, so like I said, we both have, haven't we? So we've got loads of these, which are going to be good. But it's, because I mean, because one thing I was going to ask you as well, because I was going to say, what was your first car game you remember? Because for me, the first one I ever owned myself, I mean, not including games like Micro Machines and things like that, which are like car based, but they're kind of toy car based. I don't count them. But the first one I ever had, and this is showing my age now, was on. I was going to say Mega Drive, but it wasn't the Sega Mega Drive. I had the Mega CD that the Mega Drive slotted onto the top of. And I tell you what, I'd never really noticed much difference personally, but apparently I had better graphics. But I had Jaguar XJ220 racing on that.
Oh, no way.
And that was a game I'd seen advertised, I think, on the back of my... Because like all the old consoles like Sega's used to come with a cardboard thing. A PlayStation did as well, I think. Yeah. And it would give you a list of games on the back that it came with.
Oh, yeah. It would say, you can also buy this.
Yeah, that's it. So it kind of advertised the games they had out there, which was really cool. And I always remember seeing XJ220 racing, and that was one I wanted forever when I was a kid. And then all of a sudden I saw it in one shop and I bought it. And that was... I don't even remember much about it other than the fact that it was a load of XJ220s racing around different tracks. Yeah. And I loved that one because... again, it was a real car rather than it being a made-up one, like you get in GTA when you get the Mondando or whatever it was called and things like that. And
the Ridge Racer games where it was all just arcadey.
Yeah, that's it. Cars. And, fake cars and things like that. So I mean, but that was the first car game I remember owning personally myself.
I have a feeling like you say, a Micro Machines game was possibly my first car game.
Yeah.
I think possibly Gran Turismo 1 was my first proper car game.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong. I could have had something else, but I had a Mega Drive as well.
But there wasn't a lot of car games on the Mega Drives and Master Systems and SNES and things like that, was there? None that I can remember.
You had the odd game, like there were like I think there was one game where you drove around in a Ferrari, and it's basically like one of those things where the road is just in front of you. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was that way and that way and that.
Yeah,
I remember that, but I never personally owned that myself. I think Micro Machines is possibly my first.
And Spy Hunter, another one where you were a car and you had to go down and if you got hit so many times it would turn into a motorbike, and it was a bit like a James Bond car, machine guns and things like that. Because they actually re-released it, like thinking about rare games as well. They re-released it on PS1 or 2, and I had a copy of it.
Yeah.
And I loved that game. That was a really underrated game, that one was. I'm sure it was Spy Hunter. And it was a fake car. It looked like a sports coupe of some kind. It looked a little bit like a... I suppose it probably, from whatever, if I remember rightly, it looked like a Mina R8 or something like that, but back in the day before any of those cars were a real thing. But it was just really cool because it was a spy car, so you would just... Like I said, it had all sorts of gadgets on it, and you had to basically run down these roads and do missions and survive, and that was really cool. But apparently the original one, but I think it was viewed from the top, a bit like the first Grand Theft Auto, where you could see it and things like that. Apparently there's a Mad Max game on the Mega Drive as well.
Oh, no way.
And I'd never heard of until recently from being a fan of Mad Max and seeing it online, and it was just like, wow, but never played that one. But it's, but yeah, Outrun I remember from the arcade, because that used to be in Sunspot Arcade in Devon.
Oh, yeah.
And that one, that was always my favourite. It was always an expensive one, but that was always my favourite, because you had the Ferrari like Testarossa in the original one, didn't you? And there's a guy who sat with his blonde girlfriend next to him, and you were cruising down with palm trees everywhere. And
was that the one that if you crash into something, you both jump up out the seat kind of thing, and then
the car would flip, and you both end up coming out the car. Yeah, that's right, because it was convertible, which I remember being a kid, that was quite a real sort of thing, really. Because because again, that brings me to two other points. I say another one was arcade ones. Like, do you remember any that were in the arcade that you enjoyed?
I'm trying to think. I don't know the name of it, but it was the one that you'd see in most arcades where you actually were sat in a car as part of the driving experience. I can't remember for the life of me what the name of it is. I'll have to. Yeah, somebody in the comments will know anyway.
Definitely. Well, I was going to say, I know I've got a couple, because I mean, I remember Outrun, I remember the name of that game because, like I say, I remember that takes me back. When I was a kid, there was that one there, and then next to that was one with Jet Fighter, and it actually used to move around when you were doing it, and things like that, similar sort of graphics, like old 32-bit graphics or 64-bit graphics, whatever they were. And but I remember those two are the ones I always wanted to have a go on, but they were like the equivalent of today's £3 games to go on. They were really expensive, and but they were good. But the other one I remember. And I never really played it much because it was so expensive. And back then, I was quite shrewd with my pocket money, so but it was GTI Club. And,
I remember that.
And well, funny enough, I've got a copy of it on my PS3.
Oh yeah, they re-released it, didn't they?
Yeah, they re-released it for PS3, and that's and that one was. I always remember it being quite cool. Again, for the same reason of Gran Turismo, you had a Mini, some sort of little Fiat that was quite common on the road. You had a Lancia Delta Integrale, which is probably the rarest car in it. You had a Golf Mark 1. So because of the Mini and the Golf Mark 1, these were cars that we used to see on the road. So and it was like flying around. Again, it was very arcadey. It was not really much car physics like real ones, but it was just a good fun little game, really. And I do enjoy, me and Deke quite often enjoy, like my boy quite enjoy going on it and racing each other on the PlayStation, which is nice.
Well, the one I remember from more recently is they did a Fast and Furious arcade game.
That's right. I played that one with my boys as well. Yeah, so
where you could choose between the kind of cars that have like this, like Skyline GTR and Evos and bits and pieces like that. But also you could
superchargers and things like that,
and NOS and bits and pieces like that. So
that's right.
So if you did well, you could actually play the game for longer and upgrade your car and try and make it better and better. And that's one I definitely remember. Because that one, I think they're still about now. They're proper good fun, those ones.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen one of them fairly recently. And they were good. I mean, the other one as well, which was, I was introduced to it mainly in the arcade, but then it came out on the Sega Saturn, which was Sega Rally.
Oh, of course,
the original one with the Toyota, and that one I loved because that had the Toyota Celica GT4 in it, which my uncle had a couple of, so that was always a thing for me, and the Lancia Delta HF Integrale, which was just an awesome Group B car. So yeah, that one was brilliant, and I'll never forget. I remember when my mate Dave's, I can't remember who it was getting married. Somebody in his family were getting married, and he invited me to the wedding as one of his mates, just so he'd have someone to talk to. I think more than anything else in that. And he went and did the family thing and everything like that, and then we got bored, me and him, and we were just like, what should we do? And we'd had a couple of drinks and everything. We were walking around this hotel in like the middle of North Devon, looking for something, and we found this little tiny. It was like an arcade, but it was a room smaller than my living room. It was tiny, but it had like some other little game in there, but it had a Sega Rally machine in there.
Oh, no way.
And I think me and him must have spent about 20 quid on that thing, like racing each other on that for hours when we were there, and that was brilliant fun. Me and him got really into that night. So, I mean, that game's always got a special place for me as well. The Sega Rally, that was brilliant. That was an older one, but they were the arcadey ones.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
what about more recent console games?
More recent ones? I was going to work my way up to them.
Forza, things like that?
I was going to work my way up to them, to be honest. Yeah, because I was saying, my ultimate more recent one, I suppose, it's old now by today's standards because I'm on number 5, but would be Forza Horizon 4. And I love that just because it was based in the UK. I've tried 5, and 5 is a really good game. 3 is a really good game. 5's Mexico, and I did 5 is lovely, and I know a lot of people. I loved it because I completed number 4 in its entirety. Well, actually, almost in its entirety. I'm still doing number 4 now, but I've completed the main island. I brought Fortune Island expansion pack and completed that, and I'm doing Lego now.
Oh yeah, nice.
So that's how much I like Forza 4. But yeah, I love that game. The cars you could get, the fact you could do engine swaps, the mods you could get. The only thing that could have made it slightly better is if you could do some more of those mods on some more of those cars. Like you could do wide body kit on some of them, but not all of them, and things like that. And it'd be quite cool if they could add a couple more of them in. But like I know, like our friend Dav, he loved 4 as well and was really into it. Say at a similar time to me, he was into it before I was. He had it before me. But that game was really good. The only thing is, like he said about 5, is that's just the same.
Yeah.
And it was in a lot of ways and things like that. But the one thing I will say is that was fine by me. That game was so good, I didn't care. I was quite happy to have. That's what I wanted, was more of the same. The only thing I found that was a bit hard to go from one to the other is the fact, because I completed number 4, I had multi-million pounds, a gigantic car collection. I actually filled the garage till it said they had no more space and everything. And then I went to a game where I didn't have much money and I only had a few cars, and it was like, so it's kind of like starting again from the beginning. So that was the only thing that was a bit. It would have been quite nice if you could have had a reward for doing number 4, like have like $100,000 to start with or something, just to take a bit of your money across with or something, you know. Or but I know it's different games and everything. But like I say, that was the only thing. I found the beginning part of that game was quite hard to get into just for that side of it.
I found I enjoyed the Horizon games much more than I did the motorsport games.
I did as well. I've only played one of the motorsport games and it was really good. I actually had Forza 2 on the Xbox 360, and that was a fantastic game. I really loved it. I spent hours just sorting out liveries for my cars and things like that, and making them all look certain things. Same as the 4, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, recently, for the last bit of 4, I've been making Wolfgiff Automotive cars. So I've had like pickup trucks that look like shop trucks, and transit van that looks like one. I've been using that to drive between races, and then I've been using that as a sponsorship for all my cars and things, so they kind of all tie in together, which is quite cool. But I did a similar thing when I had Forza 2, and that would have been, I suppose, the early embryo stage of Forza Motorsport. And they are very good, awesome games if you're into the motorsport side of it. But I don't know, I liked the freedom you had with Horizon.
Yeah, the map and everything.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, like I say, our friend we were talking about earlier, he admitted to me that he quite often he would go on there, and even if he didn't feel like racing, he'd just jump into a car that he liked and just go for a cruise and explore the map. And it was just something, and just having that sort of freedom that you could do that, or you could choose to do some rallying, or you could choose to do this, or you could choose to do that, and you weren't locked into a certain championship with a certain car or anything like that. And it was just, like you say, quite a nice bit of freedom with that game.
I think the thing that put me off is I'm the same as you. I only played one of them. I think it was 6. And if they had a system on there that if you did 4 races in the same manufacturer's car, you get a different level of discount on parts each time. So like the first time would be like 25, 50, 70, to the point where if you won 4 races with the same car, you get 100% discount. So you could go in and buy any car from their thing and tune it up to the max for free. Yeah. And I thought, well, where's the challenge in this? Because all I've got to do is buy a Ford, do 4 races, even if it's like a Fiesta or something like that, just do 4 early races, win them all, and then any Ford I buy after that, I got free parts for. Yeah, that's it. And I found a similar thing like that with Gran Turismo 6, going back to Gran Turismo again, with the Academy Edition one. Oh, of course, yeah. Because that one, you had like a ridiculous amount of cars to begin with, and a ridiculous amount of money as well, didn't you? So it was... Yeah, I think you had like almost like the perfect car for every single kind of... race. Or, yeah, that's it. So that one kind of took the thing out for me a little bit, because I remember in like number 2, I'd buy a car because I liked it, and then find it was crap for a load of races, so I'd have to go buy, and I found that you would speak to other people about, what cars did you find was good for this, and you actually had to conserve your money more and do things like that. Yeah, when they give you, it's nice to have a bit of something, like have a carrot a little bit, just give you something, the reason why you'd want to win that race. Like I like having the free cars you get like in GT. Yeah. And in some of like Forza, you get the wheel spins that might get you a free car, a bit of money. I like having a bit of an incentive like that, but if they make it too easy, then it does kind of become a bit like, well, what's the point of this sort of thing? Then it's like I could completely, because that's the only downfall I would say with Forza is you could go for a class, because the cars, if you're not familiar with the game, the cars have got different performance points levels, haven't they? So you've got all the way from D up to
X, I think it is, yeah. But like you could basically go for the slowest car you could and do all the races in them, and we did find that makes it easier. Obviously, the faster car you go in, the quicker your reaction time's got to be and everything like that. And unless you're a petrol head, you could quite easily, I think, complete that game pretty much in like you could just buy yourself a couple of old minis, and leave them reasonably standard. Maybe put rally tyres on for a rally one, and you probably do the whole game in quite easy format.
Yeah.
But it's that's the only one thing I would say is a bit of a downfall of that game. But I did love the Forza ones. How about you? What about you for the most modern one you'd like?
To be honest, I've still been going through. Well, I've got Gran Turismo 7, which is my most modern one. So going back to Gran Turismo again, but I've wanted to get into like the Need for Speed games because they're ones I've never really played too much. And I know they brought out Unbound recently, and I think Heat was the one before that.
Yeah, I played Heat, and when I saw that was coming out, I really wanted that game because it was. I don't know. It felt like it was advertised to me as the closest thing because I have to admit I was a massive Need for Speed fan for a long time, all the way back to Road Challenges, the original 4.
Yeah.
Because before you had most people talk about Underground as being the old original like OG Need for Speed, but there was actually Need for Speeds before that. And again, there was one which was Road Challenge, which was Need for Speed 4 Road Challenge.
Yeah.
And that was my favourite PS1 racing game for a very long time because that one you could get, again, a lot of them are high-end cars that you worked your way out to Lambos, things like that. But you started off with BMW Z3, Mercedes SLKs were the smallest cars you get. You get the E39 M5 and things like that. You could get a lot of cars which are fairly... Well, weren't common on the road, but they were ones you could actually see. And they had British tracks as it, and you could knock over the phone boxes and the stop signs and things like that. You know, the graphics are probably terrible if you look back on it, but that game was awesome, and that one was pretty good. Then Underground came out, and back in the day when Fast and Furious had come out, Gone in 60 Seconds films, and you actually had the Max Power days, like Fast Car, all this kicking off, all the like good things, early 2000s. Need for Speed Underground was just like, oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then that laid way for Underground 2, which was just even better because it had a free roam mode on it, so you weren't just doing your car to go from race to race to race. You could actually go and drive around, was it Bay City or Port City or something like that? I can't remember now what that was. But that was great. To be honest, even to this day, I think that still has probably the highest level of modification you could do to a car because you could change your stereo in there, your head unit.
No way.
You could change the subs. You could actually have bonnets and that open up like that. You could put Lambo doors in the car.
Yeah.
You could change the headlights, the tail lights, the exhaust tips, the body kits, the wheels, the suspension. You could change neon. You could have neons on it and change your neon color. You could change your caliper color. You could change spoilers, window tints, interior bits, exterior bits. You could change where your nitrous purge was on it. And all sorts of stuff. So I just said, even to this day, that had quite a mental level of detail to what you could do to your car. I mean, most of it was to look at, and it was like, but you had all these Max Power style, Fast and Furious 1 style cars racing around, and they were amazing games. And then you have Most Wanted with E06, which is an awesome game. Never completed that one, but it was an awesome game. Another one. Funny enough, one of the ones I think is quite underrated is. Need for Speed The Run.
Oh, yeah.
Because I saw the film first, because Need for Speed made a film, didn't they? So Gran Turismo got a film as well. But Need for Speed, in the film, it was a really good one with the Mustang and everything like that. If you haven't seen it, awesome film, I recommend it. But it was quite good adrenaline, lots of fast-paced cars, racing, things going on, really cool, great storyline, which kind of... That was another thing Need for Speed did capture in the end, is the storylines they put into the games really did get you going and that. But there was one called The Run, and that one is awesome, and that one I think paired with the film as well. I mean, they were set in different universes.
Was that the one where you go across the country?
Yeah, but I would have said there were different storylines. Might have even been in separate universes to look at.
Yeah.
But it captured the film and the game kind of captured each other's things or vibe perfectly because they were both about racing across the country. Came into both of them, and the game kind of felt like after seeing the film that you could get a little bit of that action, and there was a few races and bits in that you had to do, and it did make my heart start going a little bit and everything, make you really get into it, and I loved that game. And it might be an unpopular opinion with Most Wanted and all the other ones that came out, but I think that was possibly still one of my favourite Need for Speeds, that one. And I would recommend having a look into them. Although Heat, because it was marketed as a sort of like replacement for Underground, that for me was a little bit of a disappointment after the newer Gran Turismos and Horizons. Just because the car physics felt a lot more arcadey.
Yeah.
You could do a lot of modification. It was a very cool game, very good. I enjoyed it, but it was...
I remember the trailer. The trailer made it look awesome, but at the same time made you think, oh, maybe this isn't going to be quite as realistic as the other games in the series.
Yeah, that's what I found. Is it just was? I mean, don't get me wrong. None of the Need for Speeds are super realistic, but I do quite like that about them. But the game, I just felt the gameplay was a bit like on the controller was a bit more arcadey. It felt a bit more like something you find in an arcade rather than on a console. It just felt like the physics weren't all there. But still a great game. Like, still worth play if you get a chance. I mean, I played it because I had a Game Pass and it came with the EA Pass as well, so I managed to get it through EA, which is good. But it's, I mean, again, going back into like saying that about the run being underrated. I say, what about rare games as well that you had racing games? Because I know I had a few. There was one. I remember I waited for it for years and years because I saw a little article in a gaming magazine. I can't even remember which gaming magazine it was. Back when we used to read that stuff. And that article about that big, and it was about a game called Vanishing Point, like the film. And I was okay. And it was about racing cars and everything. And I read about it, just this little article, and I was like, oh my god, that sounds amazing. And the thing that got me is, as a air-cooled VW fan as I was at the day, it was the first game I remember you could get a Volkswagen camper, air-cooled bay window camper.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And I was like, no way, they're not on any games. And I waited and waited and waited and waited for that game, to the point where I started questioning whether I'd even ever read that article or whether it was in a dream or something. And I was like, fuck, maybe it's not real. And then all of a sudden it came out then, and I saw it, and I actually went and paid full price for that game when it came out because I've been waiting for it that long. And it was okay. It was a good game. I got really sucked into that, and funny enough, mate Dave who played Sega Rally with, that was another racing game I dragged him into because he wasn't a massive racing game fan, but I dragged him into that one. But yeah, I would say that was a really underrated game that probably people won't have heard of.
Well, I can't think of any rare games I ever had, but just came to me, the first actual racing game I had was I used to have a Commodore 64.
Oh yeah.
And on there was a game called Buggy Boy, where basically it was, as you'd imagine, you were in a buggy racing along, and basically you'd have it would say the distance to the finish. Yeah. But you'd be going along like normal, and then all of a sudden it started chucking obstacles and bits and pieces at you and stuff like that. So the difficulty of the game wasn't set as in this race is going to be hard, this race. It would start easy, then it would go medium, and then towards the end of it, it would get hard.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And that was probably not a very well known one, but that was a good fun game.
Yeah, because that's what I meant by rare sort of thing was the unknown ones. That sounds pretty good because I mean, well, funny enough, I got a few because I went through stages like I got really into gaming before I could have my own car. I did get, that was my favourite thing. I mean, because I was thinking like especially back in the PS1, PS2 days sort of thing. I mean, another one I had, ones that were forgotten about as well, was Test Drives.
Yep.
They were
fantastic games.
Yeah, I had I think Test Drive 2, 3 and 4 on PS1, and then they brought out 5 and 6 which I had on PS2, and they were great games. Yeah. Muscle cars and supercars and things like that. You could go racing in around the streets of like San Francisco. I remember jumping over the San Francisco bits and stuff. They were very cool. Then, I mean, another one I had, which I still got actually hidden somewhere. Yeah. Because for a while it went really super valuable, but last time I checked, it's actually gone back down in price. And it was one that not many people had heard of, but it's called Felony 1179.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it got banned in a lot of countries and stuff like that, but you're basically driving around in these cars, you can get different ones. I remember you get a Dodge Ram Rumblebee was my favourite, because that was on the front cover. It was a bright yellow Dodge Ram with the Viper stripes over it. And that one was basically you were going and doing bank jobs and heists and getting away from the police, and it was like one of the first games that you were doing things like that. And then, like I said, that got banned because it was like bad for kids. It wasn't a very good role model for kids and stuff, and it got banned in a lot of countries apparently.
So kind of like halfway between like Grand Theft Auto and Driver then.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, it was very similar to Driver. Because I mean, again, Drivers were very good games. Yeah. I loved those ones. Number 3, I never completed. I couldn't get my head around jumping in and out of people's bodies to start with. Yeah. But number 1 and 2, I loved them. And I still love 3. I would like to complete, again, I'd like to go back to PS3 and
Yeah.
complete that, because I've got the special edition one with the model car and everything. And, but yeah, the Driver series, another one we haven't mentioned, as well as like Test Drive. And I was going to say another thing as well before we go, because I know we've been going for quite a while on this one. But, because another genre game we haven't really spoken about is the post-apocalyptic fighting games. Used to be able to get, like Twisted Metal.
Oh God, yeah.
Because I've actually got. They did actually release a version of it on PS3.
Yeah.
And I've got a copy of that one, and they actually had a bit of the storyline behind, like the clown guy in that. And it was a bit, for some of it was a bit creepy, really, but it was a very, very good game. And I mean, Twisted Metal was one I always wanted. And I had it, and it was okay. And the thing that made me think about it is I had another version of it, which I brought off of another really close friend, Rory.
Yeah.
Which was Rogue Trip Vacation 2012.
Right.
And that was a similar sort of thing where all the cars were like jacked up with guns and things like that. Like you had one called Pyro. I remember we had one called Pyro, which was like a fuel truck that used to have like a flamethrower that came out the front of it, hooked up to that. You had all these mental random cars, and it's basically just like a death match. Basically, you go on there, death match, last car surviving, and you had all these different levels, like an airport, and it was called Vacation 2012 because you had like on the beach, on the airport, things like that, and all the rest of that. It was just a really good, light-hearted game, and funny enough, it had the. It actually had some. That was one of the few ones that had the real soundtracks as well.
Oh right.
I can't think what the song was called now. I was going to do my head in. But yeah, there was a song by like one of the bands that was a bit like Bowling for Soup sort of style band on it, and I remember that was really cool. That was, I remember at the time thinking.
Well, that reminds me of like, obviously not so much the post-apocalyptic thing, but like Destruction Derby and stuff like that.
That's true. They were another good. Destruction Derby were 1 and 2 were brilliant. I love number 2 because they had a bit more realism, a bit more freedom. But it was another one I had was a post-apocalyptic. Sorry, going back to it, was Carmageddon.
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, that's another one that got banned, wasn't it?
Yeah, and funny enough, that one they've actually re-released that for Xbox One, and I've got the Xbox One version of that as well. And but yeah, I love that because that was one that had zombies in it as well.
That's right. Yeah,
you get points for knocking down zombies, sort of thing. A bit like previous, like, I suppose you get points for knocking people down, like the early Death Race film. And
well, another one we haven't mentioned is like the huge amount of rally games. You got the Colin McRae games, the V-Rally games, the Dirt games.
That's right. I remember Colin McRae 1. That was the first game I'd ever seen where actually had the mud physics on it.
That's right.
You actually get the car muddy. Before that, I don't remember ever seeing another game where you could actually get a car dirty, and that damage showed physics on it as well, didn't it? And yeah, because you had that. You had Richard Burns Rally as well was another one. I think. God rest his soul. He had his own rally game,
and then there were a lot of car games that only came out whilst that particular kind of motorsport was popular. Yeah. Another one would have been TOCA.
That's right, TOCA British Touring Car Championship, wasn't it? And then you had TOCA Race Driver. Because the original one was really good because you had you had the Vectras. It was like the old 90s touring cars. You had like the Primera, the Vectras,
Lagunas,
the Lagunas,
and all Volvos, everything like that.
And if you had cheat codes, you could get a Cadillac or a tank.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and the tank actually fired bullets and made the cars go beesh everywhere. That was brilliant. That was, and that was a good game. And number 2 was brilliant.
Yeah,
and.
To be fair, I think we could probably talk about car games for hours. Really,
well, that's it. 'Cause another rarer one I had was Le Mans 24.
Yeah.
Because I remember that had again that had a good soundtrack to it. That was very good. Trying to think. Yeah, because it was. Yeah, you could pretty much every racing genre you could think of. Because I'm sure there was a drag racing game, but I was never really interested in that much.
Yeah, they did NASCAR games.
That's it. NASCAR was another one I wasn't interested in much. And I mean, and that's just the car stuff as well. The thing is, like, if you think about it, they had Road Rash, they had Superbikes. Road Rash was another series I loved.
Oh, that was incredible.
Yeah, I had that on Mega Drive all the way through to PlayStation. They did Road Rash on there, which was an awesome version of the original, or kind of like the original, where it was behind the bike. And then they did Road Rash 3D, and that was great because, funny enough, talking about Forza earlier, going away for driving around on the map, it wasn't an open map, but I found if you went onto a race. It was weird. It was like an open map, but that you were racing on this track that went around there and there. Yeah. But if you just went off one of the detours, you could just bugger off and ride around the track, ride around the map as long as you possibly could, as long as you didn't go across the finish line. Yeah. So if you didn't care about losing, you could go and just jump on a big massive chopper and ride around this open world then, which I loved.
Well, another thing that they brought out was the simulator games as well then. So you could be like a taxi driver or a truck driver or something like that.
Or bus driving simulator, train driving simulator. They got a jet wash simulator now.
Yeah.
They genuinely have Deacon wants it for the computer. And so it's like,
But yeah,
we could talk about this all night, because I mean, we're both, as you can probably tell from this video, we were both big into our gaming and consoles for a long time. I mean, until life kind of got in the way and stopped us doing it as often. But I mean, we loved our computer games when we were younger. Well, still do now. It's still like, we still need to have another GT7 gaming night, don't we? But after it, still love our consoles, still love our gaming. But I mean, let us know what you think. I mean, are you into your gaming as well as your cars? Is that one of your other hobbies, like us, or have we missed any? Are you looking at this going, you idiots, you've missed?
Yeah.
Missed this, like, one of the best games ever or anything?
Or just let us know what your favourite games are.
Yeah, definitely. Hit us up in the comments and stuff. And if you've made it this far through this video, because it was a long one, then good on you.
Yeah.
And we haven't put you to sleep. But I say thank you for watching, guys. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Cheers.